Okay, we're live.
Awesome. Have you got the right link this time?
No, no. There's I didn't post any
There's,
link. I forgot to post it because I was traveling.
oh yeah. So there's people out there that will do that for you, aren't there?
I feel pretty bad, but apparently yes. So let's see. Today is November 4th. It is 5 o'clock Lisbon time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. This is the state of the network, and I've actually got, despite not being technically prepared yet again, I've got a bunch of really exciting news. Just having been in Lisbon just barely 20, 24 hours. I think we're at like an hour 23 right now. So super cool stuff coming down the pipe, and I think we're going to get Max on. Let me see if I can drop in a link for him as well. All right. What's going on with you, Dave? While I
No,
declutter my life.
not a great deal. I'm obviously preparing for next Friday's meetup in London. Been doing some work on the Hebe Dragons event and where we're going to send people mapping next Friday.
Yeah.
Prepared some slides, so yeah, it's going to be good. I see you've got lots of people signed up, so I'm looking forward to it. It should be good.
There's a boatload of people signed up. I thought it's now getting to be. I don't want to say it oversubscribed, but it's yeah, it's getting there.
Ah, you're a popular guy.
Well, here's what I did: is I asked all my friends to send out that we were doing it, and they all sent it out on their list, and so I used my marketing magic to
Yeah,
work that particular problem.
yes, be good. So we just need to bring the weather down.
Well, you guys, England has no problem with weather, right?
No, none at all.
You guys are good to go.
We'll have a beautiful San Diego day.
Love it. Let's see. I'm trying to bring in Max, and fuck, how is it this thing is so difficult for me after using this for 6 months? So Max is on the phone. Good to see everyone who's on here. I got to turn on my comments so I can see your comments. And I don't know how to get Max in here. 619. We're late, but we're live. Cool. It's good. So you can actually see what's going on. So that's good. Um, huh. Guest is in green room. I don't. Max, I'm sorry, dude. I don't know how to bring you in. I'm obviously a fucking idiot on this thing. So we got that going.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Dave, I'll just dude, I'll just talk to you, and then we'll figure out if I can unfuck anything else. So Lee and I landed in Lisbon yesterday. Got in after the usual kind of day of travails traveling, and that seemed to work pretty well. You know, it's international travel. I always kind of try and remind myself that, um, when actually, funnily enough, when people traveled from Portugal to go around the world, when Magellan left, he did not expect to get to the U.S. in about 12 hours.
No, he did not.
So significantly different kind of time and space here.
Yeah, we have different expectations, don't we?
Yeah, it's funny because I think like, oh, we're gonna be late. We're gonna be an hour late. I'm gonna miss my connection. It's like, dude, it's not a big deal.
No.
It's totally fine.
But you're there and ready to rock. Well, nearly ready to rock.
Yeah, so super psyched there. Started doing like 900 things at once. Okay, Max, if I can figure it out, I'll get you in. If not, it's just gonna be me and Dave. So got in, and we had the Here Be Dragons kind of canceled event happened today at 11. And what we did was we just said, look, we don't have the mappers in time. They got held up in customs. We weren't actually sure if they're going to be here before the 8th, which is in 4 days. We didn't know if we could hold it at all. And then kind of miraculously, they cleared customs today. And while we were meeting with Daniel in his old coffee shop in Selva here in Lisbon, they got delivered. So
Awesome.
very, very cool. So we got 10 units. Daniel is at home now, plugging them in, kind of getting them ready. And that we should have an event probably to run here in Lisbon, like a test event in the next day or two, depending on kind of schedule wise what it all works out to. And then we'll have them for London.
Yeah, awesome.
So
Looking forward to it. Yeah. So, and I guess just remind people if anybody's coming with their own mapper, they need to let you know, so they can get onboarded onto Hotspotty via Daniel, so that everybody can participate.
yeah, Let's see. I'm seeing that you sound like you're in echo chamber, which is probably a problem with my audio. So I'm going to put in some headphones and we'll get this sorted. So that was kind of the first cool thing was meeting up with Daniel and seeing those things delivered. And then the second rad thing was, Dave, you can still hear me? The headphones working?
Yep.
Cool.
Still got you.
Maybe that sounds better for the team out in YouTube land. The second rad thing was meeting with Miroslav and Charbel, who both came in from outside of Portugal to see kind of what's going on. See if Max can come in. I don't know if you guys see any of this stuff where it just says like the guest is in the green room. It's fucking crazy that I cannot figure this out and get you out of there, Max. I'm sorry. And so these two guys came in, and the stuff they're doing in IoT land is amazing. Charbel he's originally from Lebanon, and he's running out of Turkey and Cyprus, and you're gonna kill me, Charbel, if I don't remember the last one. Maybe someplace in Greece as well, and he's got a bunch of stuff going on in Africa. Telecoms engineer by background and deploying hundreds of sensors on the network. Just super excited. He's putting sensors on ships and sending them from Lebanon to Cyprus and tracking it the whole way on Helium. So
wow,
that is super cool.
That's very, very cool considering nobody's using it.
Yeah, it's amazing. it's amazing to see what's going on. So that part is awesome. And then, I wonder if I can do this and bring Max in. Nope. Hey, Max, it's just you. Because I've forgotten how to use this.
Hey.
Oh.
There we go. Yeah.
Awesome.
Almost yanked the computer off the
Using
stand.
my phone now.
No, we got it working. It was all me. So Max, I was just telling these guys, you got the Helium in the Wild shirt on as well. Yeah. Then we met up with this guy Charbel, and he was using Helium all over the northern Mediterranean. And then we had Miroslav come in, and he came in from Slovakia, and he's got, I think he said 1,000 plus, like 1,200 sensors running on Helium right now. And he's deploying them all over the place, doing all kinds of tracking stuff. And he was working, I think the coolest thing, it may not be cool for everybody, I thought it was super cool, was that he was doing a bunch of waste management tracking. So like whether or not dumpsters are full. And if I got it right, he's partners with this business that is building the dumpsters, and they're building the sensors into the dumpsters. So just kind of coming to Lisbon is like, not that I wasn't energized before, but it's like ultra energized me for this IoT thing. It's
excellent.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully we get some more ideas, more participants in London as well.
Yeah,
should be great.
Max, did you pick up anything today? We were up all together for the past couple hours, so interested to hear your take on talking with those guys.
Yeah, Miroslav is also very actively working on tracking water usage. So he basically said that there's some new regulation in Europe that basically instead of once a year, you will be obliged at some point in a few years from now to measure the water consumption every month. So basically that like 10x is the cost for managers of buildings to do this. And his solution, entirely built on Helium, is basically automating that process. So, and because actually his competitors are using SIM cards and cellular backhaul, it's a lot more expensive. So you can do it a lot cheaper and in a pretty elegant way. So basically he has a massive market. It's the entire Europe, like geography. How many buildings need this? Like just too many for him to handle. It's just a matter of selling it because the tech is already resolved. He knows how to do it. He already did it. He just needs to sell it and implement it.
It's crazy how you talk to these guys because it's funny. I got a Twitter thing the other day where someone was like, "Hey Nick, is Helium dead?" And I was like, "No, it's not dead." And I don't mean to be an asshole when I say that, but like, no, it's not dead. Like it's just beginning. The reason you're not seeing it yet is it's not like it's basically not out of the birth canal. Like it's just sliding out into the real world right now. And what I'm seeing kind of less than 24 hours on the ground in Lisbon is that like the amount of sensors coming online and the amount of interest and excitement in this space and with Helium is starting to make the shift that we all hoped it would make for the last year or so, in that actual businesses, professionals are starting to use Helium in a serious way. So super, super cool.
Yeah, It's great, and what we're seeing in the UK, certainly we've got really good coverage. So I went on a 450-mile road trip on Tuesday.
That's right, yeah.
Tuesday or Wednesday. Used my tracking device with TrackPack and was able to track my trip all the way down. A couple of areas with patchy coverage, but nothing really that would alarm me. So you pick up within a mile or two of your location, but most places I got my tracker on every minute, so it was picking up hundreds and hundreds of hotspots. It's really quite exciting. Had it on again last night for another road trip. Again, different direction, same result. Lots of coverage, so the network is prime now for that usage. And some of the stuff that I've been preparing for London shows the same thing. I think Paul was in London last week doing some tracking. He had a boat trip along the River Thames that he was getting regular pings, so it is really exciting. And obviously, it's not just tracking that we can use the network for. We're using tracking to find out where the coverage is. But if there's coverage there, anything goes. You can set your sensors up to do whatever you can dream of.
It's super awesome.
Is there any solution out there that already kind of logs the coordinates, like every whatever minute or so, or every 10 seconds or so, and if it's not able to connect to the internet through the Helium network, that it will still basically batch or log the coordinates, and it will then send it in batch whenever there is a connection, so that you can actually see where there was a mapper but it wasn't able to establish a connection? Is there any tracker that has this built in?
I don't know. It's something that I have mentioned to Neil and Rob for their tracker that they're building, that it should be able to cache locations and send them when there is an available hotspot. Because if you're tracking valuable items, you don't necessarily need them tracked live. It doesn't matter if you miss a few points and then the next hotspot it locates them. So it is something that I've mentioned to Neil and Rob. I don't know whether they've considered it, but yeah, I think that's a great idea. You can tag against them as well to say that they're a cached value, and that there were no hotspots in that area to receive, so you get even more data coming back. So I think it's something that's worth considering, and somebody out there, please do it.
Yeah, looks like there's a couple folks in the chat that are talking about doing it. Max, you might need to rotate your phone 90 degrees to get the full effect. There's the magic. Shit, yeah. Dude, we might actually have a technically set up show here. 13 minutes into it, crushing. Sweet. Yeah.
Actually, there is one website called NPERF, so NPERF,
Yep.
and they basically, I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I've heard the name. That's it.
So it's basically a mobile app that runs in the background, and it maps out cellular coverage, and then it also can do like kind of speed tests to check the latency and whatnot. And they have a map where you can see like where all of the test locations were, and so you see a continuous path, but then the color changes based on basically what kind of speed they got. So if there was 5G coverage, or if there was like LTE, it basically changes the color depending on that, and it also shows gray where they basically had no coverage, but it's proof that they were actually there. So
yeah, so it sounds a bit like where Mappers needs to go. I know Joey worked on Mappers, but I don't think he gets the time now to devote to improving it. And certainly, I think that's the sort of thing you could do on there. There's a lot of not stale data, but it's saying the last hotspot was pinged 12 months ago or 9 months ago. It would be great to get some sort of color coding on there and really bring it up to the present and get that sort of information on there. Maybe people can start doing pull requests on Joey's Git and getting mappers a little bit more useful and giving more data for the network.
Yeah, although we just walked with Joey back from the restaurant, and Seems like he's still pretty psyched on mappers. He pulled out his little mapper. He's like, I don't think I could do travels without a mapper.
So he knows where he is.
Yeah. Well, he got rerouted on the way to the coffee shop today, so maybe it helped him find his way back.
Yeah, yeah.
So super cool stuff. Now let's see, Dave. We've got so we got like 4 or 5 days of Lisbon ahead of us, in which time we should have plenty of time to kind of clean up the mapping stuff and the Here Be Dragon stuff. We had 2 things come out of that. One was Charbel wants to run a Here Be Dragons thing in Lebanon and in Turkey, and he's like, dude, what you should do is set up courses all around the world. And then make it so that the more courses you fully map, once you get like 10 courses, you get an NFT. And I thought that was like, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of my skis. Like we haven't like done the first one.
Yeah. Let's get the first one out of the way and see how we get on. I'm really interested to see, because I've prepared some maps for next Friday that show the offline hotspots in the area, the hotspots that have only participated in POC recently, hotspots that have done POC and data transfer, so that they're the ones that we're more likely to hit. And it'll be interesting what happens when we send 10 or 20 people out with mappers and light up that area of London. We'll be able to obviously grab the data, post the event, see what it looks like, and we'll get a really good idea of coverage in that one particular area of London. And yeah, doing it worldwide would be awesome. I guess in major cities we should have good coverage. The challenge will be getting people together to a Helium in the Wild event, really in the wild.
Yeah. Although, who was I talking to? Maybe it was Miroslav, and he was talking about something. There's a dude, actually, I think Leo in the UK, who I think is coming to Helium in the Wild. Yep. Has been what's the way to say it? He's like been finding overly crowded hotspots and then putting them on ham radio towers in the UK.
Yep.
And he's been running that kind of all on his own, as far as I know. I don't know that he's kind of programmatically set that up. He's just connecting folks, which is super cool. But I think we might see that kind of thing, kind of writ large, start to come across the ecosystem in the next couple months. I don't know if it's Miroslav's thing or the next person's thing, but he's got some cool ideas, and I think we're going to see some pretty cool redistribution of hotspots. And
yeah, I do hope so. I mean, there's apparently an awful lot of hotspots available to purchase now, below market price. So hopefully, it's not just going to be people trying to pick them up and stick them in their homes again. It's going to be people with a vision to get hold of these hotspots and really deploy them sensibly to provide coverage. So again, on my trip this week, there are a couple of areas that show really low coverage just from looking at the map trails. So if you can get one hotspot in that area up high, you'll fill that gap, and from a POC point of view, you'll be rewarded for that, but also from sensor usage. Ultimately, you'll be rewarded for that coverage. So
yeah, no, it's just, I mean, the amount of like ideas just from spending 2 or 3 hours max with you and Daniel and Miroslav and Charbel and Lee was like, already like my mind's fizzing, and I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't have had a second coffee. It's gonna be too much as it is. I see Algernon Sour Gravy's here. I know that's your given birth name. Sierra, what's up? Sierra, should we do a tip and tease? Let me know in the notes and we'll talk about it if you want to do that. I know we've been talking about practicing it. What else? So Dave, do you want to talk through like the point system that you think you're kind of going for with this mapping thing? Because
yeah, so that I don't want to give too much away.
I was going to give it all away, but you do whatever you want. You know me. Let's talk about everything.
I've been working with Fish and Waveform, looking at some points around London, and basically there's a few points around London that are fairly easy to get to, because we've got like a 2-hour time limit between people registering and when the speaking starts. What we don't want is people to go out mapping and not come back for the talks. So we've set up a point system where the nearby hotspots get a lower points scoring than the further away ones. So there's a few further away ones. There's a group of 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 a group landmarks, shall we say, that I've identified. If you get all of those, then we'll get some bonus points. There's other means of getting bonus points. So obviously, every time we reach a landmark, we want a photo of the landmark and the mapper. I think we've got some spot bonus points in there for creativity and things like that.
I don't think you need a photo at every point, though, right?
That's the
whole
I
point
think
having
there's
the
only
mapper is
one.
just, like, proves you're
Yeah,
there.
it proves that. I mean, the mapper proves that you were there, but also sort of having a photo of the mapper, because it was interesting when Paul was in London, because he was taking the photos showing the lat long, and he got to zero
Oh, zero,
zero
like 0 degrees longitude,
yeah,
latitude.
latitude around Greenwich. So it's just a fun thing to do, showing that you've got that lat long and a photograph of whatever we've specified in the rules.
Maybe we should like
So
tag it and you
yeah,
get a point for doing a photo on Twitter. Like just make it kind of fun and worth it, but you don't have to do it. Like if you're gonna be like Max and run the whole thing like a marathon, dude, following that guy across Lisbon today, just like going up and down hills. Like, hey, we could take a break.
yeah, that's probably a good idea to get some photos and things on the socials,
Yeah,
and promote the event. Yeah, I think
yeah, that'd be cool.
that's a good idea. So we can get some bonus points. But yeah, it's still in development, so we'll see how it works. There's a couple of places that we've identified, where they're interesting from a Helium point of view rather than a
That's
being in
right.
London point of view.
Yep.
Again, there's going to be maybe some spot prizes. There's one in particular that Waveform put on that's it'll be a challenge, but it'll be an interesting one.
That's
I'm
right.
not
And I
this.
think the ask from Daniel, I got to shoot you a note on this on Discord just to make it get in the record. But just so folks are kind of seeing what's going on in the background, is talking to Daniel and maybe Max, you're in on this as well. We're talking about like how do you know whether or not someone was there and how close do they have to be. It was Daniel was saying what he'd like, and this is something Dave, you and Fish can do if you got time, because I know you're like, hey, what jobs can we do to help out? Was to find, what was it, the hex ID from the res 12 of that point,
Right.
and
Hmm.
then the resolution size you need to hit that point. So I don't think you can get into, and I'm just making this up, like the depths of Buckingham Palace. So maybe the res 12 is in like the super secret storeroom there, but you only need to hit like the res whatever 9 to get close
Yeah,
by.
so for each point we've got a lat long, and we can convert that back
Yeah,
into the Res 12 hex. I think that the pins on the map will show exactly where we're expecting people to stand, and then from that I'll get the hexes, and pass them on to Daniel, so he can programmatically figure out whether people actually hit them or not.
yeah. And Max, that should be an easy task, right? That should take. I saw Daniel on the chat. He's watching this, so it should take him like 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. From coordinates, you can easily figure out programmatically what hex, and depending on the resolution you choose, you can like do the translation very easy.
Yeah, so some of the lat longs will be in the same hex, the same large hex, shall
Same
we
res
say?
8. Okay.
Yeah. So so we do need a little bit more resolution there. If we can get down to Res 12, I think that's what Paul was using.
Res 12 is,
Yeah,
is Res 12 is very
Small.
small. It's
I think that.
basically the resolution where currently the coordinates of the helium hotspots are saved.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because
So
it used to
it's,
be, and I
it,
think
it
we were
doesn't
all
save the coordinate.
good.
Yeah,
Oh, so it doesn't save the coordinates. It just saves the res 12, and that must be to within like a meter or two, huh?
yeah.
Okay. Super cool.
I don't know the exact meters, but it's very it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I'll work with Fish and talk to Daniel about that and make sure that we're all aligned.
Okay. Hey, the other thing that came out talking to the guys today was also that there is intense interest in the Euro side on what's going on with the 5Gs, the 5G kind of rollout. And Max, I know you guys are kind of working on moving Hotspotty in that direction. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you guys are seeing around that and some of the stuff that you think you might try to solve? Or is that still super top secret? I think you've talked a little bit about it in public, so.
Uh, yeah, it's still work in progress, but
Yeah.
basically we're talking to a bunch of people. Like one thing is clear, it's more complex, it's more expensive, and also it's regulated by the CES, by the Navy. So basically you cannot put like a bunch of hotspots in the same location, whereas with LoRaWAN you could do that. It's not a good idea, but you could do that. Now you can no longer do that. So essentially there's always going to be a delay between planning out an area and actually executing on that. And in that period of time, it might be that actually there's an overlap in planning with other people in your area. And then you can get to situations where maybe your neighbor in the same building like put in the large investment, ordered like a hotspot or a radio, and you did the same thing, and then suddenly it's like, oh shit, we're gonna deploy it on the same location. And so basically we're looking at the possibility of sharing your planning with the entire community, so you can unlock collaborative planning to some extent. And then once that's available, then you can start actually collaborating together, saying like, hey, actually seems like you have all the locations we need in order to cover this entire zone or this neighborhood and whatnot. Maybe I will not buy a hotspot, but I will basically give you the money to buy a hotspot, and we get into some kind of commission agreement where you do the installation work, you get a cut for that. I simply provide capital. And then continuing in that train of thought, you could essentially allow people from all over the world to finance operations that are highly localized in the US, for example. And then basically people from Europe can then get exposure to DeFi crypto mining without actually being needing to be there physically. But then on the other hand, you can unlock a lot of people by providing the ability to deploy coverage without having the funds to do that. So it's basically bringing people together. That's what we're looking into. There's still a lot of work, but that's the direction we're looking at.
So I guess a bit like Emirate, but rather than sending people hotspots for free, basically you get them to invest and you deploy for them. So it's the same sort of model where it's a collaborative, but rather than using people to deploy them, you're going to deploy them using people's capital.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite similar. Yeah. But then in a way with Emirate there was no quality control. It was basically you give a location, they send you one, they ship you one. Here the idea is to be like very transparent. It's similar to a crowdfund campaign where in order to get the investment, you need to convince the crowd that you're actually going to build out legit coverage, and that can go very far. You can request people to provide RF modeling in depth, provide like whatever commission agreements they have agreed on, basically give a lot of confidence that whatever they will execute on will actually add value. Yeah.
And I know a couple of people in the UK have used a similar service for deploying in America. I think is it Helium Deploy have just done a first round, 500 shares, and they sold out in 5 minutes or something.
Yeah. Those guys are hustlers when it comes to just like figuring out how to use the network.
Yeah.
I've dealt with them a couple times, and it's just like I'm always impressed by the amount of energy and effort they put into the whole thing.
Yeah, it just sounds like a more structured and professional version of that, I guess.
Yeah.
Like basically, if you can allow people to have reporting where they can not only see like what's the ROI of their investment, but also like what's the plan. Like if I invest in this, like what's the plan and how can I follow up the progress on that plan? You can see the uptime of the entire like area because you have access to the data and whatnot. So you can allow people to collaborate in a local fashion as well, not just the financing, but what if you are a real estate agent and you want to provide access to your locations, you can basically start collaborating with that project. Or what if you're a CPI and you just want to do some installations as well and get earn some extra over the weekend, you could also join. And so basically that's the idea, but it's still early stage.
Yeah. I think it's super
Did
cool.
you say data? Did you say data? Data.
What's
Data.
that? Getting Dave all hot and bothered. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to come over here because I think in the States when I meet folks, it's just there's no barrier. You just if you wanted to buy one, you figure out how to buy one and put it up. But there you guys have we've got an ocean between us, and it's still a pretty big mystery. It's actually a bigger problem than I thought as far as the education side. I know that I've had a couple people reach out and say like, hey, can you do another 5G video? Can you do a 5G video or a 5G blog post? And it's like, God, there's so much on it already, and now being over here just a day, I'm like, oh, maybe there's not enough. Maybe it is worth it to do some like another basic install video. I'm like, hey, this is what they look like. So let's see, Thunder Road. We need tracking sensors that can be easily available for purchase and use. Check out trackpack.io. They've got some. And then the other cool thing that I think I was talking to Joey about today as we were walking around was we're going to see sensors start coming out, if they're not already out there, and maybe I just misheard them, that switch the regional frequency as they go through it. So I forget the mechanics of it, but something like the tracking sensor is kind of pinging to see what it's hearing out there. And if it hears more 868, it says like, hey, I'm going to listen to 868, which is Europe and other places. And if it hears, more 915, it'll switch over and track on 915, which is the US. So it means you could put a tracker on an ocean-going ship and run it from, Long Beach in California out to the Suez Canal and be able to track it, every time it came within 60 kilometers of land or wherever the antenna is. So I think not only Thunder Road are there options available now to buy, but there's a bunch of other stuff that's coming down the pipe that's going to make this truly a globally effective network. So that was cool. Let's see. Dave, we've got, I don't know how good of a job I've done publishing it, but we put out the actual speaking thing for England, for London next week.
Yep.
I posted it up on the Gristle King blog, and I'm pretty psyched on the folks that are coming out. We got Neil from trackpack.io. You guys have seen him on this show before. Dave, you're going to present on analytics. And then we've got a super cool panel on future of IoT, and I wanted to get folks from all over the place. So we got Adrian from Helium Foundation. We got Sky coming in from Rack Wireless, and if you were around during the kind of OG Helium days, you saw a ton of Sky. I haven't seen a bunch lately, but it's been working over at Rack, so that's going to be super cool. And then Adrian from Linksdot is going to be on that panel, and that's all just like, what do you guys see as the future of IoT? And then I took a risk. We got Rob Putt on there. So I heard he knew a thing or two about building end-to-end solutions, LoRaWAN stuff, and so he's going to talk about that. And then finishing up with Bill Clee from Novacine coming in and doing his How to Save the World with LoRaWAN talk. So that's what's going on there. I'm pumped about the whole thing. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
So I think Rob may be the person who outswears me, is what I've been told.
Yeah, you could say that.
So let's see if we can.
I'm sure he'll be on his best behavior.
Yeah, that's a great hope. Max, you've run this kind of helium-based business in Hotspotty. What do you see coming down the pipe as far as either? Let me make it just a single question so I don't hit you with like 300 ones. What do you see coming down the pipe with data visualization and LoRaWAN kind of IoT devices in general? Do you think that's going to be something that you guys get into? Is it something you're going to avoid? Or are you just looking at it? What are you thinking about that?
In terms of the mappers, I mean, we already worked on that. It's just we didn't get to a stage where we could publish it live, in production, but that's for sure something we would like to incorporate. In terms of actual sensor data, I mean, we're open to work with companies that provide sensors and they're basically to provide an overlay of useful information, but right now we're not actively working on that. Yeah. I like data visualizations, as you know, but we also decided to look at the 5G side of things, and that will have a lot of data visualizations as well, but it's more like mapping of coverage, and that will be our primary focus.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and maybe I'm just missing it because I'm like all my kind of fascination and interest is on the IoT side, but maybe I'm just missing it that there's a ton of interest in the 5G side that I just not seeing because it's not around me in the U.S. I just look at like all the IoT stuff. Mark Verdi, we need more advanced installs and troubleshooting videos. I think I think we'll be able to get some of that done in the next month or two. Max, you and Daniel are coming out to do some 5G installs in the LA area, right? Next month?
Yeah. We're going to San Francisco and LA.
Yeah, cool. So maybe we'll get to connect on it. We've planned on, or we talked about having you guys come down to San Diego and doing an install or doing something down there. That might be super fun.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Also, another thing maybe worth mentioning is that HiveMapper will launch their token and basically will be shipping a lot of their dash cams, and those are also LoRa mappers for Helium. So I think there will be a lot of mapping data coming alive in the foreseeable future.
Yep, and Joey said 6,000. The last number I heard was 5,500, but 5 to 6,000 Hive mappers online by the end of the year. So that's 5 to 6,000 mappers, Helium mappers online by the end of the year. And those are in mostly, if I'm understanding this right, from that talk, in Uber driver vehicles and FedEx vehicles and what was the other one? Taxis and Lyft, of course.
Yeah, so that'd be cool because that they won't be like some of the occasional mappers that we've got now. I've got a mapper; it goes out once a week maybe. With these Hive mappers, they're being rewarded for their mapping capabilities, for their video image capabilities, but they're also going to be providing mapping data pretty much 24/7, which we should be able to visibly see that when we look at the data through the ETL. We should see those packets flying through.
Yeah, no, it's I think we're going to see the whole game change dramatically. And I mean, one thing I see that I hear a bunch is like, hey, am I going to earn on POC and data credits? And I keep kind of beating this drum of like, I don't think people are going to earn a ton. And Max, you corrected me on this. You're like, hey, I think it was you. It was like, yeah, when we start getting thousands and thousands of sensors out there, you may actually start to earn off of DC. But I think until we get to that point, kind of planning on just earning off of the DC from folks from sensors going by your hotspot is not the best business call. But man, we may see that happening way sooner than I thought.
Yeah, I think at the moment POC allows an amount for data transfer, and if that data transfer isn't happening, it passes over to POC. So obviously, as more and more devices come on the network, the percentages are going to change to a point where data credits are going to pass POC. So we've just got to keep an eye on that and wait for the explosion. And the best advice for people is to be ready for it, or create it.
Yeah, it's just like figuring it out now. It's such a big deal right now. We're losing light here. The sun's going down in Portugal.
Actually, that's another thing we've been looking into at some point, is to visualize, like similar to the Helium Explorer, where you see like the hexes and you can change the color of the hexes based on certain metrics. To do a similar thing, but on basically counting, like summing up the amount of data packets transferred from within a certain hex or the hotspots within a hex over, let's say, a trailing 30 days. And then you could see on the world, like, okay, where is actually the network being used?
That's exactly what I've done on the map for Helium Dragons next week. I've obviously only taken a small area of London, but I've got some color coding in there for the amount of packets transferred by each hotspot that appears on the map.
That's really cool. We can maybe work together to see how we can transfer that to Hotspotty.
Yeah, obviously that was fairly easy to do on a small scale, looking at maybe one or 2 square miles of London. But to do it globally is a whole other adventure.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
Slavina Glamos was trying to help us out on Here Be Dragons, And I think the whole thing just got so crazy with what we thought was a delay in the mappers that we dropped the ball on that. But I know he's done a ton of work on that as well. And I think that's kind of one of the cool things we're seeing is all these different companies are trying to figure out a lot of these same problems. So super cool. Thunder Road, my Freedom 5 miner has not done anything mining helium in 3 months, but my radio's been flawless, so I'm leaving it alone until rewards are over. I'm afraid to touch it. Yeah, dude, it's funny that you mentioned that. Same with mine. My Freedom 5 miner has been crushing on mobile rewards and no HMT or LoRa rewards at all. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully I didn't throw Freedom 5 under the bus there, but I haven't done anything different. The radio seems to be working. I mean, I think it's one of these kind of, it's a mystery to me. It's certainly not a mystery to someone. Someone knows what's going on. But how these miners kind of go off and online on their own. We've all seen that happen with regular helium miners, so it's no surprise that you add complexity to the situation and it doesn't fix it. 619, give me one. I'm an Uber, Lyft, and Waze driver. Dude, so Lee and I are looking at, I bought one of the original Hive Mapper cameras when it was still a third party. It was like a Black Eyes or Black something, Black View camera. And I was like, I don't know about getting another one just because we don't drive almost at all. I might drive 20 miles a week. But maybe we get one and just throw it in your car and split it with you. And maybe that's the best way to do it.
One question I have for you guys is there some sort of way to know, because there's so many different types of sensors, to kind of know what types of sensors are being used more frequently on the Helium network and also where? Because that would be really cool if you provide a way that you can actually like label the onboarded sensors and then visualize where the types of use cases are being actually distributed across the world.
Huh.
I know we've kind of talked with Paul about this before, haven't we? And that sort of level of data it's not available. It's all off chain. So Paul said that he doesn't even know really who his customers are, let alone what sensors they're using.
Yep. So they could volunteer the information. I remember that conversation. Now you bring it up, Dave. God, you got a memory like a steel trap, which makes up for my sieve. That's right. But that'd be a super cool thing, Max. And we talked about this a little bit walking around too, is like the data that's generated, you can almost give the service away for free or not worry about the data credits because the data that you're generating is so valuable. So if you see, in a city that 1,000 restaurants are using a specific people counter and you start to see like the movement of people around that city, you're not collecting any personally identifiable information, but you're collecting something pretty valuable. And that might be worth it to say like, yeah, I can give the restaurant owners a significant discount on the people counter hardware just to get this aggregate data.
Yeah.
That's the type of information that Google also has. In Google Maps, you can see like this is currently busy or busier than usual and whatnot. So I think in Android they collect this information as well.
Yeah, and that's just so. But let's see. I guess you could pull that. I'm always thinking of myself. I'm thinking of just as selfish as the next guy. Thinking of our little cookie store, and I've been talking about this forever. Putting people counters on the outside and the inside to see like how many people are walking by versus how many people come in the door, and whether our signage changes make any difference in driving folks inside. I wonder if I could pull that data off of. I can't imagine that Google gives me that data for free, but that'd be pretty cool to set that up and then see along my street like how many people go in stores on my block versus the next block, and is there a difference? Because then if you're a real estate agent, you could be like, hey, between 35th and Felton, it's worth way more because more people go in the doors here versus 35th and 32nd.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the whole thing, the more you think about it, and the more you think about kind of what you can collect as far as data, the more exciting it gets.
Yeah, it's how you link the data together as well, and having a load of location data. Yeah, it's all well and good, but you've got to add the smarts there and process it and figure out exactly what it is you need from it, and then you can start adding data from other sources to make it even more valuable. So I'm going to touch hopefully a little bit on that next Friday.
Yeah, hopefully don't screw that up. You can see that it's getting dark outside. I'm going to move to a more well-lit place.
In your small apartment in Lisbon.
Yeah, this Lee got some smoking deal. She's on like some hotels.com thing, and we get points on all these things. So she's like, all right, let's get a place. And we figured I thought we'd be hosting a State of the Network here. We may still host a cool get together here, and I want to make sure we didn't have like a one room apartment like we did in Austin, where everybody's like crowding everybody's sitting on the bed, and it's like, not really cool with that. Cool enough, but not really cool. So, yeah. There we go. Now that I've learned how to manipulate the background. Let's see what else is going on that we saw today. We talked about Miroslav. We talked about Charbel. His stuff going into Africa was crazy. Oh, he said something. He's like, dude, with 28 hotspots, I can cover 5 million people in Sierra Leone. And so what I started, what that triggered in me is like, you can take all of the excess hotspots, and B, not that many hotspots in general. Like, I think, what is it, $6,000? You can cover 5 million people. That seems like an awful lot of people to be able to cover with just a couple of hotspots. And all of a sudden now you got coverage for an entire city. And you can open up these places, and they start making this kind of jump over all the wired kind of information stuff that was happening before, straight into the modern age.
Yeah, when you start thinking about it in terms of the third world, where people don't have access to mobile phones, and if you've got all this coverage available, the things that you can do for those people in those third world countries is quite astounding. There's a whole opportunity there to make people's lives better through the Helium network.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty rad to see what's coming down the pipe. And then I saw Sierra's thing, the Just the Tippin, which is, we might as well put it out there now, so Tippin, TIPIN, is token incentivized physical infrastructure networks. And the phrase was coined by Mike Zajko from Lattice Funding, to refer to blockchain and meat space, or whatever you want to call them, projects like Helium. Helium was obviously the first and the biggest and the best. But we got a bunch of these other projects coming on. And so Sierra had wanted to, or is starting a podcast called Just the Tippin, where we're only going to be talking about Tippin projects. So projects like HiveMapper, which we talked about, like GeoNet, like all the different things that are out there, like Anode Labs' React network that they're building. Super, super cool stuff coming down the pipe there. But she's saying that she's working on the same kind of thing for all these Tippin projects, like what sensors they're using and how they're using that data. I think it's pretty wild, Dave. I mean, you got to feel fairly secure that if you ever want to quit working on trains, you can work on all the data that's being...
Absolutely. I'd love to quit working on trains, to be honest with you.
Don't say that in public. Your boss might be watching.
Yeah, I think I may have told him this morning. Yeah.
That's funny. So yeah, super cool thing. And Sierra, that's up on Twitter right now. I think that the handle is Just the Tippin. I don't know if we have the website yet, but that's coming down the pipe. That's going to be Sierra, myself, and the other Max, who's not on this call, on People, or from People Antenna. So yeah, it should be super cool just to see all the kind of content that's getting generated out of all this work. All right, folks. Well, for a non-technically prepared episode, we managed to jam a lot in there. I'm seeing a bunch more folks on there, and let me double check the comments to make sure we're not missing anything. But is there anything else that you guys have that you wanted to hit this week?
Yeah, just in terms of what's happening on the network at the moment. Obviously, we've had a few blips, shall we say, over the last couple of weeks.
That's right.
Things were still looking a bit flaky on up to Wednesday. I had a look at the data before we came on today. Yesterday, we've got a back to normal number of validators participating, around 2,800 validators. Knock-on effect of that is obviously we've got a good amount of beacons. The block times are good. Things are back to normal, but we can't say that they're stable for another few days. If we get another few days of things working properly, then whatever the guys have done at Nova, they appear to have got us back to where we were in that nice area of stability that we had all the way through October. So I'm looking forward to it sort of being stable and not so manic and not so many people shouting and screaming about it. So things are looking good. Unfortunately, we've still got the targeting issue. I think yesterday one hotspot did like 40 odd beacons, which is rather annoying, but it is what it is at the moment. I spoke to Hashcode yesterday. He's saying he can't wait until the targeting goes away, and he seemed to indicate that it was going to be sooner rather than later. Which
Do you mean the new
excites.
CEO of Helium Foundation?
That's the guy, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we should probably cover that in the state of the network. The state of the network has changed. We have a new leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, I just had a brief chat with him yesterday. So I guess you'll be seeing him this week in Lisbon. So
Yeah, yeah, looking forward to it. It's super exciting. I know Scott Siegel has been running pretty ragged, doing a bunch of stuff, and he's psyched to see a buy on there. And I was talking to Joey today as we were walking. He's like, "Dude, this is going to be so awesome. There's probably nobody on the planet more suited to do a great job." So that'll be super cool to see that coming down the pipe.
yeah.
I agree. And maybe Nick, you can touch on the Helium Train event.
That's
next
right. Yeah.
week.
So
Yeah.
we got a bunch of events, right? We got September, well, not September, November 6th. We got the Hive Mapper event, so the party here in Lisbon, and then November 8th we're going to be doing the Helium Hackathon training. That's training, I guess both. Where a bunch of folks are getting on a train here in Lisbon, and then we go. It's like 2 hours. I don't know what direction it is. I was just going to get on the train and kind of let the train
Yeah,
connect.
up north.
Okay, so we're going north. Going north and doing a bunch of kind of hardware hacking, which is really what Max, you and Daniel seem to kind of like the most. Like when those mappers came in today and Daniel is just like immediately ripping open the box, shaking all the stuff out on the table. It's like, this poor guy's been like stuck face to a computer. He really wants to get his hands getting burned off by soldering irons. That's where he's at his happiest. Yeah, so we get on the train, and then there's going to be a bunch of hacking stuff going on, figuring out how to use the Helium network, how to build something on the Helium network that exists. And I guess one of the cool things about that is that Helium network coverage throughout Portugal is really good, and we're going to show that off by showing that wherever you are on the train, you can get connected in. So, is there a project that Max you're working on there?
No, we're just tagging along basically. But I'm curious to see like what. I know that the share spot guys, they've been building out a lot of use cases. I don't know a lot of details, but I know they will be there on the train as well. So I'm curious to hear more about what they're working on lately.
Yeah, I hope somebody's done a dummy run, because my experience of trying to use helium devices on trains is not great. They appear to be very good at blocking RF signals.
I don't see anything
Jose?
could possibly go wrong.
I think Jose actually went on the train just for like basically proving out that there is coverage all the way along, and he was able to get it. So
excellent. So I've been on trains, and they've got a tint on the windows that stops them working. And in the UK, the trains tend to go down sort of little valleys, so that they're in a little bit of a dip. So the coverage is pretty poor, which isn't great for Wi-Fi coverage on trains either. So. But it'd be really exciting to see what comes out of that next week.
Yeah. So that I'm super. I mean, just like as silly as it sounds, just watching how excited Daniel was shaking all those hardware pieces out in the desk. It's like, just watching this train thing and not knowing anything about what these guys are actually doing. It's like that's going to be pretty exciting. Seeing what comes out of that.
So you can almost guarantee that a business will be born on that train.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll be there. I mean, one of the things that this is showing me, and we've done a little bit of this in San Diego, putting together meetups, is if you want to keep your kind of stoke going on the Helium network, it is really important to organize a meetup in your area. And whatever I can do to support that with the Crystal King channel, I'm sure whatever the Helium Foundation can do to support that, like do that stuff, because it gets you so jazzed to be around folks who are also into this, where you don't have to explain what crypto is in order to explain what Helium is. And to talk about what you can do on the network, and to just brainstorm with other people in the real world about what you can do. It's a pretty amazing thing, and really, I can't say rejuvenating, but super, invigorating. A very, very cool thing. So if you can't make it to Lisbon or London or Paris or Barcelona or San Diego or wherever you are, is take the time, reach out, find local folks, and organize some kind of local meetup, because it's a super cool thing to be around people who are into the same things you're into. So, Charbel's here. What's up, dog? And Dustin is backing up your facts. I think he's backing up your facts, Dave. We're down to 30,000 inactive hotspots in the H3 DEX, down from 126,000.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. Anthony Anderson, Solana programs are deployed and Oracle are well underway. Their ETAs sound reasonable. Anthony, are you here kind of watching the whole, you must be here watching the whole Solana thing. We were supposed to check into an event today, and then we got to talking and eating a steak the size of my fucking head. And the next thing you know, I'm like 30 minutes late to get all the state of the network stuff set up. So yeah, there's apparently a lot going on in Solana. I mean, the plane was packed with Solana people yesterday. It's just like, I know where everyone here is going, with the exception of one family who's returning to Portugal after being in Brazil. Everyone else going to Solana.
Yeah.
So. All right, well, I think we can probably wrap it up a couple minutes early. Anything else you guys want to hit before we sign off here?
No, just don't be too busy over the next week. Make sure you keep in touch about things you want for London, and we'll do what we can to support you.
Yeah, no, I'm super psyched to see all this stuff. And there's a channel in the Gristle King Discord for the Lisbon. Just anything going on in Lisbon. So if you're in Lisbon and you want to meet up, I know Smokelum has reached out. God, I forget everyone's like real name. I just know by their handle. Has reached out. I think he just got in. But yeah, if you're in Lisbon or you're going to be in London, those two channels are wide open because I'll be in each of those places for a couple of days. I'll start up Barcelona channel as well. But yeah, I would love to meet as many of you as I can and share your stories and kind of get the word out there. We did some really short interviews today here in Lisbon and putting together a whole kind of video thing to support this and show everybody what is going on in Helium, because it's a pretty goddamn exciting place to be right now. So that's the deal. All right, guys. Max, Dave, thanks a ton for coming on. Super good to see you guys. Max, great to spend time with you today. Dave, looking forward to getting to spend time with you. And I will see you guys at the latest next Friday for the State of the Network that I should be slightly more prepared for.
So we're rolling straight into that after the London meet.
Yeah, in fact, I better plan that, because I think those guys are saying that we got to be out of there at 5 o'clock, and they don't seem like they're very lenient on any of their times. So maybe we'll have to shift that right by an hour or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they were freaking out because I told them I was bringing in microphones, and like, are your microphones going to interfere with our microphones? Like, I don't think so. Is that really that big a deal? Like, I paid you guys to use your space. Just get out of the space and let me do my thing. God.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming on. We'll see everybody later or on the Discord. Rock and roll.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. See you.